I want to build a template here so I can have it on my mobile device. And I can just hit my greatest hits of scripts that I know fit a certain ATR. So the first thing I'm going to do, this is going to be an Akinashi, smooth Akinashi layered, trying to get a 3D effect. So a long time ago I wrote a bunch of indicators that were in thickness bars layered in a way that, depending how you build a template, is going to determine the look, right? So if you want to have like, this would be Hakanashi Smooth, which looks like you have just, instead of having a cloud trading system with the tanking and the wanking and all that stuff on top of the cloud, you just have the cloud. So if you're a cloud trader, you're just kind of building a, but you're paying attention to the pip depth of the cloud. You can see the grid on top. And the way MetaTrader builds a template is the last thing you put on is the last thing you see. So you have to, it's really kind of a little bit tedious to get the colors right to create the effect. So the more Hakanashi smoothing you do in different variations, now there's methods inside the code that I don't understand where they're deriving the method from. And I found a flaw in it, and it was mentioned on the internet. So I don't know if I have the fixed version, see. Like you can tell, because the problem with Akinashi is it's going to distort the highs and lows. You can have different highs and lows, but it's smooth. It's a lagging, it's a moving average. Right? But you're talking about a 2-period moving average, so you basically have, without going to the other time frame. So on the 4-hour chart, though, if you build an Akinashi in the 4-hour chart, you're only going to get, this way you could trade a bunch of currency pairs, right? Because you can see the heat levels. It's like the heat map. Did you ever see the heat map from 10 years ago? The first time I saw it on the morning financial show, I thought, wow, this looks like, this is like Star Wars gear. And that was the heat map. I thought, gosh, can you pull the trigger on that? Like, my tequila buddy's like, hey, can we pull the trigger on those trades? I'm like, God, don't you wish? Like, the heat map comes out in the morning, all the stocks, like this is like the kind of like the what they used to call it, Doppler 5, Let's check out the neighborhood for the weather. So it's like the financial weather report. It's just amazing. So this is kind of based on the psychology of the way you see the market. So you're really building the way you want to see it. So I would take off, currently the template is just nothing but closing on top of, the most stark view of the market is just, it's the closing price on top. But we could dress it up with some filters, but in the end I'm always going to put the 1 period on top of all those filters so I can see the derivation of what's making that happen without looking down at the lower panel. So basically, Hakanashi is an indicator on price, where anything in a lower panel has a different kind of psychological context. I think people are thinking, well, that's my fucking dashboard. That is like, okay, that is the temperature on my oil. That's the temperature on the airflow. Depending, like you could have a car that's all blinged out with indicators. Like you imagine getting in your car and all of a sudden all these gauges boot up. You had to get a bigger alternator, right, just to have these gauges running. Maybe you got some tube-driven shit, right? So, the thing is that there's no end to it, right? Especially in MetaTrader. You can get carried away. Be like so deep in the mix of indicators you can't tell where to pull, what trade you should be taking. So here, every time you add an indicator, you also go down the road of, you have to know which button is assigned to that thing. So I wanted to create a color wheel kind of trading system that even somebody that doesn't know what the fuck's going on would just say, hey, it's blue, just keep it in the sell button. Because all of the orders are tuned to make money on the short side. And then you create the mirror image on the long side. So I actually created the mirror image on here. So I have 20 orders here that are almost, you'd have to double check them, because I don't want to be responsible for, if something's wrong there and it should start looping. You would know if it's looping, because if you're constantly hitting, and I'm constantly hitting delete all objects key, I have a hotkey on delete all objects. So as I'm refreshing the chart, I can see there is no pending scripts. You never want to have a looping script and you can't see the order on the screen because if the market's not moving, it'll stack up at one price and it'll look like one ticket. So I had that happen. That was actually made money on that trade, but I don't think I'd want to do that again where I look down and all of a sudden I'm in an ungodly amount of stuff and the broker didn't have a limit on tickets, so it just kept stacking up. If you notice that other thing, that Uniglobe has a limit. Some brokers have a 200 order limit. This is a great thing if you're an over trader because it's just saying, hey, you know what, the car will not go faster than 70 miles an hour, so don't even think about having, you're just like, hey, you know what, I can just put it right to the metal. Like, I wish my car had instead of a cruise control, I just had a stop limit on I just hold it to the floor because I'm trying to, like, get my leg in the right position in this fucking car. I was just like, God, man, can you just get, like, a stick? I'm the highway, I think they call it cruise control, but probably cruise control, the motherfucker starts to, burn fuel. Like, I really want to punch it up a fucking hill, like, dude, I'm gonna stay home more, trade. It's, I just found out it's less risky to trade because it's just out the other day and people are so impatient now. If the economy gets any better, I'm going to tell you right now, this is when you really think about getting Kevlar. People think, people just think without any filter. But it reminds me of the market in a way. It's just super dangerous. So I built this template on top of price. Let's take off this moving average because we know we're going to put it back in, right? We know we're going to have to do that. So this is one of those things you can do on the weekend because the market's not open and you can focus on this nonsense. So right now we're going to delete this. And what else are you going to do? So spread indicator, we leave that in. That's not going to matter. Now the bar is going to be the last thing we put on also because we want to see where we're at in the real price, and the real closing price. The price range and the closing price are going to sit on top of everything we build. So we have to take this off. So you're building from the ground up. It's going to look really, you're basically saying, hey, how much of a trend trader do I want to be? And how much of a range trader do I want to be? Because as soon as the colors start to overlap, at that point, and there's some amazing, when you filter it down to method only, as you switch the methods up, you'll get into a thing where you can change slight variations, right? And you would know what that means for the pip range you're in. You know what the ultimate key to hit for that. But you kind of have to. I don't think you build an EA that's going to say when this color gets to this percentage of that color, and then the ATRs of the Hakanashi start to snug up. Go do this task. Go run this script. You have to just press the button. You've got plenty of time on the 4-hour chart to press this button. You know exactly what you're just going to have to go with. You're basically going to be an EA. You're going to be the EA. You're going to say that's blue, I'm selling. It's green, I'm buying. And I also have chromatic shift issues, so I had to build all the colors so that it wasn't too much of a disturbing contrast. But you can always adjust it. I mean, you can go into a thing that'll tell you the value levels of all the. Actually, gray screen would be great. If I could just switch this to, if this monitor had a gray setting, I don't know if it does, but that was my dream monitor years ago because it just gave me a grayscale. I don't need to be punished with all this color. If I'm just making an analytical, black and white decision, just give me grayscale monitor. But I don't even know if they make them anymore. But so take off the bar, and now I'm just left with the grid. I'll probably put this on last too, right? So we'll just start off naked here. Now we'll just start off with pure. The system I devised here was, let's see it in here. I thought I just loaded it in there. Oh, well, I can start over here. It's a matter of taste, I suppose, here. Now, the HAS, which I'll just post this as the Hakanashi indicator system. So you're going to build basically a turnkey mechanical system based on ATRs of the last known maybe it's going to be this version, which is just the method and the moving averages. There's 4 settings in there, so it's just spelling out the settings here. Now this is more smooth here. Now the more smooth they are, if this is going to be the background, it depends how you want to layer it. So I'll start off here with this really long, this would be the cloud, a bunch of methods and a bunch of, this is very laggy, right? But even on this system, if you have the right pip amount, I guess I'm going to have to double check and make sure these are the fixed ones. The problem is some of the old indicators, you drag them in to make sure the method's been, I'll have to track down the rhythm. I actually called it fix or something, so I know where it's at somewhere. So here, you can pick your colors, you can pick the width, and the method is 3 across. So at least I know the method's correct, even though there was a flaw in there. Somebody pointed it out. And so that's all the code there. What it was is they missed out on the high-low close here, and it really did fuck up the bid. So I have to double check that. 2006, somebody made this. So you'll know if it's wrong when you start laying this up. Now put on the 2s on top. Now that doesn't look like, maybe you don't want that color, so you got to come in here and take, this is where it gets tedious. Take that indicator out. Come on top with, maybe come on top. I don't know what the colors are here. I should have written the colors in. Now here's another thing. If you want to have this and look at the, delete the other one, put that on top, the 333. What would happen is you have a nice, like where it's, you just see the volatility edge of it. You'll be able to tell if this indicator is not correct code because you have to look for a smooth Akinashi fix on the internet because so if I put this on top of this white, it's you're gonna see the trailing. This would be the trailing money management stop, or this is your sell stop. And this is like a parabolic SAR, stop and reverse system. So as soon as you do that, you've just put in, you just given yourself a view of where, when there is no white, you are at a balanced doji. So depending, see this white ledge down here. Now this is where the pressure, the buy stops. So if you're just, the whites are sell stops and the whites are buy stops. So if you have blue, you have buy stops stacking up here. Very simple, crude system. In a down market, your blue down, here's your entry. Right? You would know your entry just on the most crudest of all criteria. When you see white on top of blue, this means hit the buy stop button. But you would just tell the person, no, hit this button. When it's blue, you just hit this button. When it's this color, based on the ATR, because it's going to make a difference. If you're hitting the buy, if you see white, don't press the button until you see the whites of their eyes kind of thing, right? You know every trade along here. How could you fuck this up? You can't. So there's not if you go to the 1 hour, and all I did was put in, so I saved this template, right? Now you just start saving templates. Then you go through all your templates. Which one do I like? Which trade system can I just have a quick and dirty assessment of the market? I don't want to have to think about this shit. I've been trading this so fucking long. I want, give me this. It's a switch. We're either in downtrend or we're in a fucking uptrend. And if you're just hitting a buy button, it doesn't matter. If it's buying, what matters is how many pips. So maybe you have a template just for that button. Maybe you have 8 charts up and 8 buttons. When this thing is that, you hit the button on that, right? Now, you'd have to build 8 EAs. You can see to really milk the system, to milk the trend switch, the Hakanashi. This is smooth Hakanashi. I could put on, and actually you should put real Hakanashi on first to make sure that. But I'm going to plot my closing price will eventually be on top of this. So come in with the structure of the market on top. So the final kernel is here. We want to know if there's a top bottom when it's this color, we're taking that trade. We've filtered out in some regard here. I don't know. See, now the pace of this cloud's going to determine whether or not you punish the account. Now look at this beautiful little hammer. There's just a white on top here. You know, at this point here, you've got to pull the trigger on a fucking huge position or you're a fucking idiot, right? And you come into the Asian session, when you get these little candles, this is your breakout. This is your, not a lot of money, but very high probability that something's going to break, right? This is your only pullback here. There is no white on top of this. You have to have some kind of brain, right? When it's in this, in other words, you have pendings based on this, you just pull the button. Because this is blue, it doesn't fucking matter. If you can kind of see that, hey, that's the wave 4. That's wave 4. So this takes out the ambiguity of, if you're going to trade Elliott wave, you need to trade waves. So here it's obvious, right? You don't have to. Now, if I put the closing prices on top, it may change your idea of a wave because now you're going to look at structures on the actual core skeleton of the market. But if you just said, hey, this is wave 0, and it should be obvious as hell, right? This is 0, 1, 2, 3 is supposed to be the biggest wave in Elliott wave 4. 4 comes back to here, 5. That's that wave. Then there's, this is maybe wave, it's got to be wave 4, right? 0, 1, 2, and you would see it inside close here. And then, but it's just, this whole time you're a buyer. And even here, because your limits are still pending from the previous 8 hours, you even make money on this because even though it starts to turn down, you had pending limits here based on how you build the hotkeys associated with what you see on the chart. You have to integrate those two. You can't get around that. But basically, you just have a quick and dirty system. On the 4-hour chart, it's going to be, you're going to have to risk way more money. You have to have wider stops. But, hey, like here, you're in an uptrend, right? Your system says every time this color is invoked, we see this, we hit a certain kind of button. But those buttons have to have a wider ATR. So the 4-hour chart has more risk, but bigger reward, right? You make it to here, and the account goes flat, and you're not taking any, even here, but see now the ATRs have changed, so you have to be aware of the ATR of the Hakanashi, which is a lagging ATR. It hasn't caught up. See the ATR here compared to the brutality of the actual price. So depending how you layer this, whether you want the volatility hidden behind a mask of broader clouds. Now let's put the closing price on top and see where we fall in the mix of the rhythm, the actual, what's causing the colors to change. We'll go in and just put a 1 period moving average on top of everything. Go to trend, go to moving average, and it's already set to. Now you might want to make it a little fatter because you're competing now with the Hakanashi. And here you can see that this pullback here, you could have pulled the trigger. So this is a down into the cloud, right? That's a cloud entry. Here's a cloud entry, right? Doji also, go figure, right? What's the chance of that? So here's a pullback. The color says buy at the market, pull every trigger you have here, Here it says pull every sell. You're in a sell trend. You just went blue. 4-hour chart. More risk, right? Here, buy, right? Here, sell. 2 sells into the cloud. Easy trade. You don't need to move. This is cloud trading meets moving averages. But the method is 3. I have a 3-period moving average creating the cloud, and I could tighten that up. Now, when it gets really hairy, and I've got templates that I could dig out, I don't have them here. I should drag them in from the other stuff. When you leave a whole trail of stuff behind, I just loaded a broker from way back, and here comes MetaTrader up, and it wouldn't even. It's actually the old version that was not integrated in the internet like this one is inside of this platform. You can't get MetaTrader to run unless it connects to the internet now. So MetaTrader is kind of floating on a cloud, so to speak, compared to the old XP version, which I have to reboot. I've left a trail of computers behind burned up, and I should just retrieve the trying to boot XP and just run all the old stable stuff. It looks like Linux now, I suppose, XP compared to this cloud nonsense. But yeah, so you can see here, even you'd be buying this pullback. You would have gone long here. You have a perfect top become a bottom. It's integrated with a 3-period moving average, right? A cloud. Here we crash. We have supposedly in sell mode here, and you'd be selling here, right? Get stopped out. But here you have to go long. You got buy stops on top. The other rule could be you have sell stops pending on the tail. This is the vapor tail of volatility. You can see the volatility is just getting insane here. Perfect double bottom. This is the unique candle you would see is one of these just before you turn. You would see a unique candle like this. So this is a cloud doji. If you're just going to focus on those candles, but of course you got to get in before that. That's just confirmation that, yeah, this is fucking serious turn pivot. Especially when it doesn't obey this bottom is supposed to become, so you can see the top bottom theory through the clouds here. You would be taking that trade for a few pips. If you're going to buy religiously every pullback here, you just bought this pullback. You're in the cloud. The euro is going to march north. Not to say we're not going to revisit this, and you should have a limit bank in here without regard to even this cloud trading thing. You're always going to have a sell limits that start here, maybe, depending which. But because even when it's going down, it doesn't mean you're not pressing another button that's going to buy the plunge when they trap everybody here, and then they rape them up into the previous floor. It doesn't mean that. And here, the ATR is going to tell you to run tighter stops, so you actually make more money here than you made maybe on this trade, just because of the way. But they both you're getting it for different reasons here than you are here. But if you set your targets, now you have to hard set if you're really going to mechanically trade. And here I built 20 scripts, so I have buy at the markets, sell at the markets. I mirrored it out. And I have to adjust the pip targets to something like 80 pips maybe max, right, on some small tickets. But we really want to make most of the money on the smash out of the gate. So if we take a sell here, we really want to be, and then of course you're thinking, well, buy limit grids here for a possible bounce. You get blown out of that, but definitely have to buy this next hole. You don't know. You're always buying this hole. You're always buying new lows, and the scalp is going to be to here, always. You see this double bottom, you're like, yep, fresh real estate, you buy it up. Those scripts are designed to do that. You get out here. That's the scalp. Then there's the pause, and here comes the trend traders. They get trapped on, and you can't see it here. This is why you have to put, now here you could just go into properties and say chart on foreground, but now it's going to kind of screw up the moving average. It's going to go on top of everything now. The other way is to put the bar on top and layer that on top. So if I say chart on foreground in the common area, this is going to force the candles on top of the so the closing price there. But we can see it. We can see the moving average cloud now. So if I go to the bar chart, which is the only way to really kind of see the actual, see, I can't really see it here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put bar on top. Let's open up the navigator and put the bar on top here. I'll have to delete the moving average because this is going to look ugly. So I'll put a black bar on top here. Now it's going to be hard to see the switch at the blue point, but this is how I end up in the end here. I'm going to take off the moving average and reapply it. So insert moving average. So you build this template, and this could basically filter out. You're going to put one filter on, basically. It's one filter. So if you're going to record something, you would just put a limiter on. You wouldn't want to totally, you kind of want to get something in the box, so to speak. You don't want to clip it. So this is one way of not clipping your account, so to speak, or blowing it up. Put a regulator on there, right? So I'm not saying you could trade filters, but if you're going to trade naked raw and your stops are your filters, then it doesn't matter, because in the end, that's just how you're going to trade, is just blow by blow. You can't trade the left side of the chart. So now I got to go back in properties and turn off the chart on foreground now that I've got it laid out. So here's where now I can compress it a little bit and I can see the underneath color, but this is why you're trading bar by bar. Like here you're in a cell, you're in blue. So any kind of rally in the blue, you know, any kind of... Now, on the 1 hour chart, if you have the 1 hour script running, the 1 hour robot, he's going to buy pullbacks here where maybe it's pure black. Like the rule system here is it's black, it just went up, we buy. It just went down, any rallies into blue, we sell. So there's your cloud on the 1 hour. So the 1 hour cloud scripts are written tighter stops, tighter profits. Here's a top becoming a bottom in a color, in a buy only mode on your keyboard, and you can see that there was no wick. These are the wicks. There's no pullback here. Top becomes a bottom, and the last known trend is up. And you know that, like for instance, this 1 hour rally here, if you had nailed this at the market, or you had sell limits on these wicks, you're in sell mode this whole time. It's very simple. Here, it looks like it's going to break down a tad, right? But we have buy limits on structure levels, too. You can't be completely naive to the fact that this is a 2 drive, right? 1, 2, giant, right? This could be wave 3, which means we're looking for wave 4 to weasel down. The thing about Elliott waves, you got to know what wave you're in right now. That's wave. Any big move is wave 3, or it's a C wave, ABC. ABC correction. C is the biggest wave. 3 is the biggest wave. It's a 1-2 punch. The third punch, in other words, 3 strikes you're out. Right? You ever heard that one? So 4 strikes you're out. It gets a little choppy. 5 strikes you're out. Like, huh? What? Well, this is called. Well, they just go into overtime. So the market goes into overtime. It's in wave 4. It's like, oh, geez. Oh, geez. I guess everybody just left the party. And now what, right? But you don't want to be a slave to this color wheel stuff, right? But you could set this up for a time frame per chart. Now, in the daily, it's certainly going to be like big, long trends, right? Here the trend changes, but is this really the trend change, or is this nothing but the pullback of the weekly trend? See, it's the pullback on the weekly. So weekly trend traders would have said, well, you know, they're going to get trapped here. And this is why now you have to go to a lot tighter cloud than a 3 period, I think. But the argument would be, oh, no, look at this sell into the cloud, right? Look at this sell. How could you say that? Well, you know, if you had your stops up there, say they just smash up with ATR is critical. So the last thing is to put as the ATR the script, the button that you're going to press has got to be based on something in reality, price-wise. I mean, this looks very wonderful and fantasy. This is like Gartley's without the price. It's like, oh, that looks like really cool. Let's do that trade. Not with any reference to color. So we had to put reference the price. It's just you're living in a fantasy world, rose-colored glasses. So let's put on I'll put on a 25 pip 10 pip handles, which is really going to come in without the stuff on the right side. We can always put on a grid on top of this. And I can change the color of that, make this a gray or something. So this is 10 handles. And this one I can actually fatten up for some reason. I can't fatten up the other one. So down at the bottom of the code here in 10 handles, they have a description for thickness and color. So I'm going to put a pretty fat thing, and this is going to be, because we want to say it with a 10 pip entry. So we compile that, and this will actually update on the chart, thank God. We don't have to reapply the indicator. So we're going to figure out how many pips we're going to try to make. Now, how many pips per hour, the 1 hour chart. So here we have a reference for how to build a script around a 10 pip entry window. So we have a signal to buy, and we're going to buy with 8 pip stops, and maybe our max stops 10 pips. So even if we get if we're going to buy 3 pips deep, 5 pips deep, 8 pips deep, everything has a 10 pip stop. And you can just look at it and go, oh, on the long side, I would have been able to get in, I've got pendings here that never filled, but I'm in the Hakanashi cloud's telling me, just keep hitting the buy key. Everything's geared to the upside with a 10 pip stop. You can only imagine how much money you could make, maybe 13. Your stops start at 5 and they're 1 pip apart. So you've got 10 keys you could hit. You could trade stop only. You could forget limits, you could donate all 10 buys and sells to stops, right? You could have a stop broker. A broker that, now this broker lets you put the order anywhere. So you don't have a restriction. And how do you know? Because you go to properties, you go to trading, or hit F9 and you open it up and you say, let me place a pending order. And if it says right here that the order doesn't have to, there's 0 pip must-be's, right? 0 pip must-be's in here. Because when it says must, when I hear that word must, I already am pissed off, right? Open price, you set must. I'm like, oh boy, am I in jail now? So differ, and so if it says 1 pip and I got a new broker that says 1 pip, so that's a big deal because it's going to you'd almost have to rewrite the script to really save yourself and force it to get in below, like you're gonna, instead of buying the ask. So I switched things to actually buy the ask. Okay, now you could say buy below the bid, and this way you'll protect the system from trying to execute something that's unexecutable, and it's going to loop because it can't find that price. You'd have to trade on limits only, and you'd have to tell it, listen, it's got to be a buy limit below the bid. So it's unless the market's a fast market, and by the time your order hits the thing, so when they say don't trade the news, it's like you could a script, unless you know exactly when to press the button because the spreads have tightened up. If the take profit in that script, in the double click script, this is why you trade drops when the news comes out. You trade grid drops by hand when the news comes out, because those will never lock the system. They will just stop. They won't loop the script because the drops are passive in a way. Come in, and if they're unexecutable, they'll die of their own death. Whereas double-click trading, which I'll be doing on here because I'm not gonna. I don't want to have to go for the mouse. So it's about execution. It's really about how quick you can kill somebody. I remember the old westerns. You know, how fast can you draw? Well, how accurate can you pull the trigger though? Right. But in this game, if you're a scalper and you can see, wow, that is just wow. I mean, if that spike you've been waiting for happens, and you already got the pent limits in there, and you go, man, I got actually some dry powder. I'm gonna press the button and hit this thing, and really get in. And this is 20 pips of smash around here. But if your targets on the big tickets, you know, at this point, you might have a 5K on there so you can get out, right? You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5K. 1, 2, 3, 4K on tickets. And here I'll be running really big because there's $51,000 in the account. So I can be kind of a slob a little bit. But, you know, you have to realize that in the end, this black bar that I put on top, which is the bar, it's max zoom in here, unfortunately. Wait. This is max zoom in on MT4, unfortunately. This is how people usually view the market, but I'm just going to go blow by blow, right? And this would have been your top become a bottom here. Now it is blue here, so you're going to say, well, that you have to break the rule, right? Of course, you have to see this as your entry. And your buy stops are always trailing on blue anyway, so you're going to get a bad fill. The rule list is when it's going up, you're running trailing sell stops here, right? So they would have trapped you had you not taken into account that this bar is actually about 15 pips. So you're only taking trades on the breakout scripts when maybe you get 10 pips and below. So 10 pips and below to go the other way. I shouldn't have that white trailing thing in there. It's a little confusing. So if I take that out, the more stuff you try to put in, the more detailed the script needs to be now. Now you've kind of stepping away from simplicity and going down a rabbit hole of possibly making it difficult to describe your trading systems to somebody. So you really want to maybe get rid of this white because it's putting too much into the formula. So we just go with pure color. No, pure color. You know when you be long, you know when to be short. The 5-minute chart, you've got to be, you know, sitting right there, pulling the trigger. You're in a blue downtrend. You're selling every time it rallies blue, every time it pulls back in this color. Right? You just keep buying. You're just in buy mode this whole time. It's hard to believe it's going to keep chunking, but this is a 10 pip grid, so you're building around this. Now this is going to make it. You say, hey, you know what? We got to go to the 15 because there's no trades. There's too ridiculous, right? Too much chop. You're going to get chewed up in the spread unless your targets are 3 and 5 pips. Now that's a different lifestyle, right? So the more I step away here, half-hour chart. Very violent rallies here, but it's railing into the blue, right? It's into the blue, into the cloud. This is an easy setup. You have to realize you're in long mode, right? You're in the buying mode here. And even in the selling mode, if you consider that every time that it's going up, when the ATRs get small, so there are two criteria, like how big are these wicks? Well, this is there's no stop entries. The only buy stops would have been filled right here. You're into the cloud, the ATR is low. You have made so much money. You made 20 pips clean there. You probably made like so much money, and here's another opportunity to get back in. But, you know, strictly speaking, you're supposed to sell right here. Okay, so you made a little bit of money, but the ATRs right here are so critical on the half hour that they're saying, okay, we got to put in, even if it's non-directional. This is where it's okay to just say, you know what, I don't know where it's going. Buy stops, sell stops. Okay, you made some money. You made 5 pips. Here's about to become at the top in blue. Right? You can justify that entry, but here when you come in Asia, it's so quiet. here's your scalp scripts coming in. 'Cause low ATR. And here again. Now here's where you make it back. Even if you got trapped here, you make it all back and then some, and you're totally, you know what? You're a trend trader. You are a trend trader for 40 fucking pips, right? This is wave 4. We're in wave 4 right now. We have buy limits here, okay? So I'm going to zip up the indicators and the, I'll put those indicators in here. I'll just call it Akinashi system. The scripts I'm going to write, I just wrote the scripts. And I'm going to trade them. I really have my worst stop is 25 pips. Right now inside here, I'll just call it Uniglobe. I'll just call it Uniglobe, and the whole thing will be in there. It'd be the scripts, the template, this template. Now you can build a million templates. This template's called, I call it, whatever's at the top of the template list is what I end up calling it. So I take a approach of my latest thing is my greatest thing. So somebody asked me, hey, which video do I watch? Just last one I did, because I'm always building on, of course, you know, you're only as good as your last trade. You're only as good as your last hit record, you know. It's very hard to write that first hit that was done in a innocent way, because the more you know, you always have to figure the more you know you don't know. So we save this template as number 1. And it's always number 1. I guess you could name it something else later, but unless you really like it, you're not going to name it, right? People name kids they haven't had yet, but in this world, I don't really name it unless I think it's really going to be that great. If you look back on a 30-minute chart, you still have to be. You see, it's going to try to find me. Look at this. Look at that sell. That whole time, you're only pulling the trigger on every baby up move, so it's complete. And you still got the target set to 40 pips here, so that's a 40 pip winner. Here, look at rallies in the blue. It's a no-brainer trade, so I like it better than a moving average because it's paint bars that I was building inside a trade station. I used to build paint bars. So this is really paint bar, where you just say, you know what, it's going up, hit the buy trigger. Baby pullback, just, I don't know, fucking hit the buy trigger. You could give this to somebody, and I swear to God, leave them on the half-hour chart, leave them with a 1-hour chart. They pull a button based on this sell. They pull a button. In here, every hour it's blue, they're hitting the fucking button. You could have it so that the candles change color on the rally, okay? If you wanted to, you could say, make the up bars one color, right? So that's the switch. And you would just say, okay, what you really want to hit that, but see, here's the end of the trend. And the ATRs are smaller. I don't know if it's possible to get a bar that changes color based on its ATR, but that would be ultimate, right? You have the smaller the bar gets, the darker the color is, so to speak, or something. So like I was showing that bin demonstration at Wolfram, that you could have it so, hey, you know what, you could tell somebody like it. When you see a small black candles, you could just tell them size. So it's like bin size, but you can't really see it unless you're down here. This is max zoom in, and it just looks so obvious here. But it's like, or you can just put Akinashi. It's hard to get, you have to force Akinashi to get a very big, fat, candleish looking tail. But yeah, it's a bottomless pit of, but you do want to have some type of idea of the velocity of these moves. And if you looked at the tails on the cloud, if you just see, this is a 20 pip tail on this cloud, but that's not the candlestick tail, that's the cloud tail. There is no, I know for certain that the bar is literally the range. And fractally speaking, you would buy this anyways, right? You're going to buy the void here from a new low standpoint, you're going to have limits in here on the 1 hour. And you're already in buy mode. The last known trend, actually, you really trade in the last known trend when you're trend trading. Like, you're still in buy mode here because according to cloud rules, you're a buyer. Now, if you have scalps built into buy limits, and you always should, because even if you think it's going up, you want to make money from this psychosis here, this 10 pip psychosis. And maybe you are trading 40 standard lots in there, but not at once. You'd have like, each one would have its own thing. You couldn't say, well, I'm going to risk 10 pips to make 20 pips. Okay, that's great for one ticket. But you need to risk 8 to make this. You need to risk this to make this. And that whole clusterfuck. Here's a very small ATR. You have a button that risks 8 pips to make 12. It trades a hell of a lot. You're buying every pip apart, every half pip, whatever that is. And even if you only realized your buy stops are filled, your buy limits don't. Your buy at the market's fill. It pulled back into a perfect top bottom with the cloud underneath, right? Couldn't get any better than that, right? Seriously? Your car alarm just beeps? How do I know that you're just not really good at like, you hear people beep a horn organically and it's like arrhythmic, but what if you're the kind of guy that shows up at somebody's house and they just start hitting the horn like it's an alarm, and then just like every time you hit it, you just shrug your shoulders like, yeah, I don't know what's going on. How to torture a neighbor. So, yeah, it's funny. You can't write them a ticket, apparently. Yeah, look at the daily. It's in a downtrend, but I don't think I trust the downtrend. This is 10 pip grid. Give you an idea of pips there. Here you were in an uptrend here, and this is a very crude way to just look at trends. You know, look at this is wave 4. This is pullback. Do you trust this color indicator? Fuck no. The last trend, you have to go. Now this is the top down. This is where top down view comes from. What's the trend here? Hey Johnny, oh it's a downtrend. See, this is why you do want to have this for people, right? This was made for. And that's just one, that's the 333. So the template's saved. I'm post the whole thing with the this is the holy grail right here, right? It's an uptrend. So yeah, you know, this is consolidating here, and who doesn't think there could be a possibility on God's green earth that we could come up into here now? Like fucking duh, right? Where was the only pullback to get in on the weekly? You missed it. You fucked up. You did not buy that pullback. Well, you knew you're an uptrend on the trend line close, so the structure's on top of the cloud. This is the bottom that's supposed to become a top. Uh-oh. Didn't work out. This is the other one. The other pivot. Didn't work out. Just cutting through that. The original launching point for this whole downtrend in the weekly is the double bottom becoming a top while blue. Everybody's on that trade. Structured traders, trend trade. Hey, you know what? This is the only chance to get the fuck out. We bought this thinking, what's going on here psychologically, I suppose, is the last known trend was up. Everybody bought here, and when it comes back to here, they're like, holy shit, let's get out. But look how this becomes support here on the weekly close. So this is your only, not your only chance, but it really was your only chance. If you look at the Wick City tells you you should have bought everything here on the plunge, on the euro, and the retest of that structure. So that's my weekly structure coming in. Why you want to have why you want to have all your price over times on closes, because look how they sync up with the daily. Perfect sync, right? In fact, if I scooch this up, it'll still hold on the weekly, right? It still holds the support on the weekly. The monthly, uptrend. Hello. You think the dollar's not going to get creamed? If this thing ever, this is 2-year accumulation on one instrument like this. So, dollar's in serious trouble. Not that it matters, right? Euro's not in trouble. Well, at least for the euro, the dollar could be fine against the dollar. Like when you're in one country, if you never leave that country, you don't really give a fuck about the exchange rate, do you? But this was the trap. On the monthly, Right there. There's the head. There's the shoulder. It may not be symmetrical, but just trap theory, right? Your first chance to draw an uptrend line. Your first chance. So it's really just about filling the void, I think, above, possibly. That was your confirmed trend. Not to say that we can't come flying back to here, which I think we did. We came back to 11.15. That's the monthly. So in the daily, sorry, in the weekly, we did come back to that. We had two tests at 105 and 108. There's a wick here at 108. Now you said without deleting the indicators, I'm just going to stretch it out so you can see 10 pips now. And so we came back to this 108 almost. Never got there. So this is another thing where the best price was probably, well, this is, you'd had to buy that new low there on the weekly. You had to buy that stop hunt into the cloud. That's a very, so when do you buy new lows? Well, when you're in an uptrend, you're buying new lows. It's that stupid. This is what, like, I just watched about 4 hours of people trying to show me how to trade, and they keep putting the word trading in their presentation, but I never see them trade. I don't say, well, you see right here, you want to be like buying like a whore on these pullbacks here because, you know, it's like in an uptrend. And what you just have to say, it could be baked. And if that happens, the stock market's going to sell off very, very sharply, I would think. If the dollar seems to be synced to, but it's not a perfect sync. Again, there's no perfection. There's no go-to thing. So let me zip this up. I'm going to put it under Uniglobe, and it is a Uniglobe MT4, or I'll just put, we just call it Hakanashi, right? Because, yeah, Hakanashi system. Smooth Hakanashi system. I'll try to find the link to the fix there. So you can double check the code. Make sure that it's not, it's pretty much there. That's why I'm always going to put the black bar on top of any kind of indicator just so I can see what really is really. Right? What is the real ATR? Bar by bar. And so what's going on? So yeah, it's going to be one of those things where it's always about how tight's your stop. And how tight is your take profit too? You want to get the fuck out of these big orders. You just want to get out and take your money and run because the market's vibrating too much for me to lock up margin and sit in these moves. Now, it's not to say you couldn't be long on a swing account from an entry that was below us by 400 pips right now. So you could be long. You could still be long from down here and you're holding. And I used to be in these trades when I traded commodities. I'd be like, yeah, let's just hold it. Look, I mean, we're going to wait for that vacuum, the final vacuum fill. But in the meantime, I would have to be scalping because I don't think I could sit there. And having bought down here at this retest, I probably would have got out here. I don't think I'd be able to hang even on this swing trade. I think I would have exited right here at the last known floor on something, and then of course the glorious target here, which everybody kind of turned around here also. Nobody was alone on the turnaround here. Back on this pivot, everybody got the hell out here, right? Because you can see the pullback there. They're like, oh my god, that price again, really? And of course, this is we're clearing the trees there. So we clear the trees in a sense, not to say that we can't come back here and get that wonderful smash out. It would still be in buy mode, according to your cloud. Whatever, and of course, the longer the cloud, the less frequent the trading. If I had a really long cloud on here, this would probably still be giving me uptrend. I'm pulling back into the cloud I'm buying. So cloud trading works, but man, you got to have huge fucking orders ready to go. And if your cloud is too out there, you're just hardly going to get a setup. This is why they have the tank and wankins going on inside the cloud. And that, to me, it's just too much, right? Pick a pick a cloud and go with it. I can build a very complicated templates, but I know what they do. I couldn't explain it to somebody. Like, this is the thing, is if I put in 8 layers of clouds in here, which I could, it would look just amazing, right? You'd be like, wow, look at that thing. And it turns to orange just before it breaks out. Yeah, but then if you had to explain it to somebody, if you had to explain it to them, they'd be like, so I'm trying to make this stuff explainable so that you could build your own psychosis indicators. I just don't want to look down. That's the one thing I don't like look down at the lower panel. I want to see everything that I'm, all the compression layers, all the limitings that I'm putting in with the paint bars. I want to see that included in the mix. I want to look out the windshield and have the tachometer embedded in the windshield, right? So I don't think it's legal to put your tachometer right in your face there, but I see people with it on the dashboard, right? So if you could see your vacuum level thing on the dashboard, you know, you're going to drive differently, right? Then you can see when you're actually burning fuel or whatever you're doing. So I want that right in front, and this is just an easy way to trade. So that when you have that, we refresh here and bring in the 10 pip grid. So being aware of which script is going to work in this. Also, you can say, I'm only going to try to make 30 pips. So what does 30 pips look like? And which time frame do I need to be on to make 30 pips? And when this is happening, you're looking at this view of it. It's a lot different than having this view of it, because you're going to think, it's not a lot of money. But you start to stretch this out and think about trading, really big orders that are just put in like to very little risk. You know, you're literally buying this window here. I mean, what is that? 8 pips? You could put a 10 pip stop on that and get in just an ungodly size position. Imagine you have a stop down here and you buy this whole thing up. Not to mention, you bought at the market every hour it pulled back into the cloud. So you're long here, you're underwater. You go here at the market again, you're underwater. I mean, they take you down, but the limits are filling up. Like, you can't fuck. So you got 50% limit entries. You can see your market orders, and maybe those have at least a 20 pip take profit. You made that. Maybe 30 on some of these breakouts, but you're not getting filled on buy stops here because the ATRs are too big to put a buy stop in. You're only allowed to trade on limits and at the market. So every pull down into the cloud, you have to hit a button. Every hour you check the chart, hit a button. You're long, you're long, you're long on limits. Big bank in here. But you hit a button that buys, say, at the market and throws in limits. It's a combo play. You could have it down to one or 3 buttons, you know. I think the ultimate is to have a button for every style setup. Like even here, small ATRs, breakout. This is the last little gasp here. Here, small ATRs. So small ATRs in the cloud, and your limits got filled because you had your buy limit bank. And here I traded this. Right. This is obvious. I did this on the video. Right. Remember that entry? Huge buy limits, hog long, $3,000. That's $3,000 trade. That's the Hiller trade from last video. And of course, this is the trend traders sell. Every rally in the blue, you're selling on. This is a 3-period moving average, or some kind of 3-period method. It's the 333 script. You'll see it in there. And so it's template number 1. It's just stupid. You just gotta hit the button. We know this is going to be a great buy zone tonight. All next week, buy limits all the way down. Just set it and forget it. Open up a fucking account, put $100 in it, lay a grid in, walk away. You don't even have to think about it. But most people aren't going to do that. They want to see what's going on right now. Can I scalp it? Can I do this? I mean, the scalping mentality. This is where people are like, well, can I get how tight? Okay. But realize that you got to take your 8 pips and run. 40 pip targets. Yeah, okay, maybe on the 4-hour script, the 8-hour, the 12, it's small position. It's going to be a swing trade orientated script. But I don't want to be too in one camp or the other, because yeah, there's some amazing moves that aren't scalps. And if the scalp is set to take 8 pips, he's gone. The scalp out. If you have 8, 12, 16, 22, 28 profits set on one key, that thing streams out. It just unloaded like 38K. Boom. And pretty exciting here, getting in at these amazing here. And you can see the traps, right? The limit grid, your 10 pip limit grid's already cashed out and made its money. You had limit grids above, especially when the market heats up. Included in the fact that this thing is going up, you don't have to tell the person that. When they hit that buy key, it's throwing sell limits in. Like when the ATRs heat up here, I'm sorry, when the ATRs are small and you're getting in a breakout, maybe it's throwing, included in that script is a sell bank above. It's a combo script. It's a bottomless pit of possibilities. You could be buying at the market, buying on a couple stops, a couple limits, and included in there is already predetermined that you know you want to sell if it goes up, so you have sell limits built in. But that may be a little disorientating. You hit the button and you're like, what the fuck, I wrote that? So it comes in the screen and you're like, oh man, I better run this on a separate account. Keep track of what I've created. Franken-trader, right? You have to be careful. You could get so carried away. I did it in the beginning. I just was so script eager that I just would blow up accounts with stops as opposed to blowing them up without stops, and it didn't seem to make a difference. Still blowing up the account. But yeah, I mean, seriously, making tons of money and then blowing up the account. Of course, I mean, it's not like you would just open the account and just blow it up. You'd be like, no, this thing's making money. Let me just really trade this even harder, right? So the car is doing really well at 180 miles an hour. Let me go to 220 without even trying to gradually get up there. Just punch it. Just put a supercharger on a turbo, on a stack 3 superchargers on it, and just watch the block melt or something. But yeah, I have cameras in there, of course. You know, I taped it, and I sell it on. The video goes viral. You pay for a new motor, right? This is what you do. You put GoPros under the hood. I guess these days that's how you get out of a bad trade, right? Get out of a bad idea. So I could play this in Strategy Tester too. You know, another thing is, after you build this, you're going to want to open Strategy Tester and really call out the trades. I don't know if they let you pull they won't let you pull the trigger. I guess there's some simulations that let you pull the trigger, but of course I think you're stuck with like this clunky, you can't launch a script. I mean, the ultimate is to, I guess, trick MT4 to thinking it has a real data feed. Put a server in your house that behaves like a broker. It's the ultimate way to do it, is take all the data that the broker did and somehow stream that into a playback system. I don't know if that's possible. That might be a little too Frankenberry to navigate, but that's the ultimate, right? You'd have let's test this thing on data and have it spit out. I don't know if anybody's that deep into the hack world, but that would be the ultimate way to test a script, is to have a simulated real broker on some type of cloud streaming thing, and the system thinks that it's real data. So yeah, I put this in there, and I guess it would make it feel a bit safer to pull the trigger. At least you could blame it on the cloud, right? You need to blame it on the cloud. So it could always work against you if you think, oh yeah, that sounds like a good idea, and then you kind of miscalculate the ATRs. Like, you always have to the biggest determiner of whether or not to pull the trigger is going to be the ATR. So right here you can see very small. This is not the price, that's just the cloud. So you have to always remind yourself that these aren't real candles, that's really the critical. And you never got stopped out of that, and that could have been even a reverse trade. You could still have the sell stops and it never got filled. You know they didn't get filled. But that was the burst. I was watching that. We were watching that happen. in my unlive trading room, my private trading room. So that was obvious setup, right? Here again, this low ATR right here. That would have been a buy. But see how to take your 8 pips and run, because you're never going to see those 20 pips. So that may even be too greedy of a script. You have to build that non-greed into the button you press. Here you're short. Right now you're just short on the ATR bot. At the very end of the day went short. Here you got chopped in the end. Once the drama was gone of this moment here where we cut up 22 pips, once that drama's gone, and maybe you're actually short on limits that you threw out in front because the ATR got exploded and you knew that as soon as the candle gets big, it means throw in big limits and big on both sides. But you have to build that system. It's a trade plan and a hotkey, and once you set that whole thing up, you're basically, and then you just go to the next broker and go to the next broker and just start setting these up. This is like your own prop house. You know, you're building your own prop. I'm just saying for the sake that I could never find people that had the same schedule as me, so I just started double track my own tracks. I create my own bass track, my own drum track, and just jam on top of it. It was impossible to find people that were available when I wanted to play. So you just build your own dollhouse, you know. This is what you have to do to survive if you're conscious, because otherwise you get bored or you would have an anxiety attack. It's either one or the other. So it's perfect for the trader, though, because you can be a system builder, but you also have to be a trade plan builder, because there's no money. The system builders sell systems, and they probably don't trade them because they realize how difficult it is to build an order placement, to have a risk plan that is a gradual, incremental risk plan without having, like, you know, the bigger the gun, the bigger the kickbacks. So you might end up with a bruised shoulder with some rifle, and then you're like, oh boy, this is going to have to take a little bit. I have to build some muscles for this, and it may be too much work. Trading's a lot of work to actually psychological pain in accepting the risk up front. Once you build the script, you're like, oh, okay, how much do I want to risk? And if you are too stingy when you put your stops in, you'll say, yeah, gosh, you gotta be in a drawdown instead of getting stopped out. So you'd fine tune that. And then once you, maybe it is possible at that point to go to other currency pairs but it has to be ATR specific or Pacific, because that's going to determine whether or not you're able to realize that whole swing or that retrace or that trend or that breakout. Never realize the target is supposed to be your goal. You're supposed to make money from your profits, not your losses. So if you're getting stopped out, how are you going to realize your profit? And I would say that you could probably go to the yen with the same script if the ATRs, but then you're going to have situations where this is where you would have to follow your system that you built if you're going to simultaneously trade two currencies, because now you have to say, well, I can't, and it may be too much to manage. It may be too much to manage because you want to trade really heavy. Now, that's why you need different brokers. You have your yen broker and you have your euro broker. If you commingle those, it's very hard to manage those tickets, especially on that amount of tickets. And you don't know what your metrics are. You don't know if your system really runs good on. So you need two demos. Well, most people won't even trade a demo once they trade real money, but maybe they're trading real money because they like the fun of trading, right, for the excitement. And it is exciting, there's no doubt. So people's motivations could be different. Besides, you want to think in terms of not all your eggs in one basket. You have 5 brokers, 5 demo accounts. You got the pound account, you got the euro account. And I guess you have you could hand the Euro account to somebody and go, here's the thing I built. You pull it. I'm tired, right? You pull the trigger, and you could just have stuff that when I pull the trigger there, it's going to work on that pattern, and that setup, and that currency, and that broker, and that demo is going to be just for that. The yen demo. Commingling all these things in one account just never worked for me. I can't tell I'm making money, but I don't know how I made it. It's not good. Even these random orders, it's not good because these algorithms work out. When the volatility kicks up, it's only logical to put limits in super deep on both sides of the market, because it could become a spike fest up and down. You could, end of the day, it just looks like everybody got raped. And even though nobody went home with a piece of ass, everybody just got raped. Well, I mean, no relationships came out of it, let's say. It's not a trend. Trends are like a relationship where an explosion of volatility is nothing more than just pure fucking chaos, and you're cleaning up on limits, and you're just like, I'm making money. It's crazy. What that other guy would say was gambling. This guy was attacking me for just willy-nilly trading. Like, no real trader would trade like the way you're doing this. How dare you post and fuck up people's heads with chaos? The chaos killers, right? The people that have a schedule. Well, we do this then, right? So that never worked out for me from day one. I was a chaos child, so chaos is my friend. Well, you have to take a little bit of page out of the weather. Like the weather, you're at the mercy of the weather, so the weather's the market. Would you play golf if it was an 80% chance of rain? That was what I was told by Andrew Cardwell. Would you play golf if it was 80% chance of rain? So would you trend trade if it was an 80% chance that there's no fucking trend? Well, fuck no. So you have to build around Mother Nature as it unfolds in front of you. So here it's obvious, right? Obvious we're going to buy on a bounce, maybe 8 pips deep. For 8 hours, you got a bank in there. For 12 hours, you got a bank that's 25 to 80 pips deep every 10 pips. Like the whole layering. And imagine you've got 5 brokers, and all they do is trade the euro. Each one has its own unique. This is where you would dial into the metrics of that exact script plan. That's a lot of work. You got all these brokers, you got all these laptops, you got all these computers, instead of these guys, I like these guys that have 8 fucking screens. Dude, each screen should be its own computer. That should be dedicated to that instrument. Why do you I'm only imagining that these are one account on, I have like all these charts. I would just keep that stuff all separate, because you don't know which broker is going to blow up next, the biggest brokers, why did they bail out these people from the crisis? In other words, the market made a move and people were like, holy shit, this thing moves? Yeah, it could go up and down. Fucking A. Like, who didn't think of this? But the comfort level that people have, false sense of security is getting too comfortable, right? This is how people atrophy and die. But what wouldn't happen to you in trading? Actually, you blow up the account because you're not aware of the fact that markets can become very violent and they won't respect your stop. If you're used to trading with 20 pip stops, when the markets heat up, people say, you know what, I got to trade smaller because it's so fierce out there that I can make a lot of money from a very small move now. But are people willing to adapt to that thought? If they're used to trading with a 100 pip stop and they're like, God, I got to put a 300 pip stop in now. It's like, holy shit. And it's so violent. They don't have a trade plan for, like, what happens if the markets heat up? And you're still in this one currency, which used to be pretty tame. Don't forget the meltdown. I just show you on the monthly there. When that's happening, holy shit. If you're used to a 50 pip stop and making money from that, because I traded through all that stuff. And I said, wow, it seems to me like what I used to trade, and I wasn't paying attention to my stops then. I was just watching the account blow up. So I would just say, I made a bunch of money or I blew up the account. I either made $4,000 or I just took $500 and just destroyed it after making $4,000. So this blow by blow trading where you're trading in the hour, you don't see that other picture. You see what you're supposed to do in the hourly, and then maybe extend your profits. This way you're able to ride along with whatever coming at you. You can adapt on the fly. And you might have to trade lighter, but maybe the account's grown by now, and you're making a ton of money on a 50 pip move. High probability too, and the cloud's keeping you out of the you're aware of the trend that other people see, and you're aware of the breadth of the market. And that can get, like, even on the 4-hour chart, if you're on the 4-hour chart, you could say, wow, you got to start thinking about entries on the 4-hour chart, and you could take that scalp in the morning, but now it's like that scalp is just almost a swing trade. In the context of profits for a fixed pip amount in your brain that you've gotten used to. The 4-hour chart here, come ripping all the way back to this 20 pips deep here. So you can see a super hard move. But lately, in a 10 pip lifestyle, this was the psycho winner here. Selling that wick. That's the fastest money in the world right there. Buying this wick. Different trade plan. Look at the ATR there. And you knew from this last thing that you got to be trading super wide there. But now, simmer down here. We got trapped these guys in here. And I'd be so cashing out of that. Would be a complete winner at the end of the week. Because we're going to go sideways now, right? We got to consolidate. We got to get into some type of so-called setup. But the setup's already here in my mind. I know tonight I'll be buying down here for easy bounces. Scalp bounces. We can cash in on those, cash out. We can still get in the bigger time frame. The 4-hour, to me, is untradeable. I mean, my buy limits are sitting here for a retest of the cloud. So we trade super big on this thing. The more money we get in the account, the more money we have, the more money we can just trade for these 10 pip winners. We can make $1,000 here. In this 20 pip zone, we got $1,000. Easily. We know this low exists. So there's no secrets here. We know this is the double bottom. We want to start buying below there. And then we want to start buying this wick. We're going to buy all the wicks all the way down. This is what? Right at the 10-yard line. This wick, right at the 10-yard line. No brainer. This is blue. We're in our downtrend. You missed your short. You should have gone short here. You'd be up on the trade. Okay, that's it. I'm going to zip this folder down. Nakanashi. I'll put the indicator. I'm going to put the template and the indicators in there. So it'll just be two folders. I mean, two files. You need the indicators, and then the template is going to call up the indicators and throw up the and I should load, make sure it's in here. Template number 1 right there. So you can always swap out, build your own, morph it, make it fit your psychosis, and then the rest is up to you. I don't have show the ask line. Okay, the ask is black. That's why you can't see it. Ask is white here. It's under a pip right now, the spread. But really, that issue means that you have to put your buy limit right here to buy the new lows, which they'll be stopping people out. So it's your first ticket. And then you just have a ticket at the 10-yard line when the market opens. If you're bullish, and you would have to say, well, it's in an uptrend, right? There's your first 2 entries, and I'm buying super heavy in here on this pullback area. just for the bounce. I'm not saying I'm going to buy here and hold until it goes up to takes another 10 pips up, because I know that there's going to be so much drama if it comes back here that it's going to look something like this when it plays out, and I'll be able to go into hyper scalp mode and trade this whole this ridiculousness here. That's the 10-yard line. We break through the 10, we pull back to the 10, we make the 20 pips here, we come back, buy more. Buying on limits, buying at the market. So you bought at the market here. So, but I thought you said you just went short. Yeah, of course. You went short, you're up on that trade. Do you get out? Depends how much money you have. I would have got out at the end of the day there, because I know if I've got $1 million position sitting down here spread out in a bunch of traps that I know I can scalp out of this whole zone over and over again tomorrow. So tomorrow would be, do I sell at the market for a drop down into this? Yeah. So you're short into it. You're taking something off the table. That's why I said it's a buy right now. You had to take something. You should be. You should be just padding the account constantly, so you can ride some other time frame or other currency. So if you built the yen thing, if I put the yen instrument up here, so I open the view market watch and go and put the yen up, say, right? Chart window, template. Oh, gee, wanted to sell here, right? So every hour it's up, you sell. Right? Obviously, you would have realized that. Here's sell mode, really, right? Sell into blue. Looks like a lot more pips here, though. It looks like a lot of pips here. This is a 40 pip smash. So here's your sell. It's blue, you sell here at the market, here at the market, here at the market, and you're getting filled on the sell stops if you're willing to put in riskier. You've got a ledge here, and this is the vacuum you're looking to fill. You know, your targets are here. You start fresh buying here, just like the Euro trade, fresh buying. Here's your head and shoulders. You're buying the 10. You're always making those 10 pips. You got top, bottom. Cloud says buy. Cloud says buy this top, bottom for a little bit. Come back up to resistance. You're selling at the market in a structure on the blue, on the sell cloud. Here you're just getting in, retest. Your limits are running. So you're always buying and selling. Here's a sell into the cloud. Sell into the cloud. Here you're buying into the cloud. You're buying into the last known trend is up on the 1 hour. It's pretty easy to see the trades. Here you're buying pullbacks into the cloud. But you already had buy limits in this 20 pip stop hunt. Looks just like the Euro trade, same story, different currency. Here buy new lows. Right? Sell new highs into the blue cloud. Here it doesn't quite change. Here you just change color on that candle. You just changed to an uptrend. You're buying here pullbacks, hopefully, anyways. This is supposed to become the bottom, top in time. This is supposed to become a bottom. Top, bottom. Cuts through a little bit. Overshoots the runway there. Trend line to break. So yeah, dollar's going to crush the yen, and the euro's going to crush the dollar. Right? Obviously, wave 4 completed. Wave 3, wave 4. But I put it on a different broker. Seriously. You really want to pay attention to what's going on here. You got buy stops stacking up here. You've got a vacuum itching to be filled here. Go to the daily chart. It's in an uptrend, right? No doubt about it. It's been this color. You know you should be hit. You know it should be on the long side. This is wave 4 or wave 2, whatever. Like selling into the cloud, sell into the cloud, sell into the cloud. Right? Don't overthink it. Small ATRs, you're getting filled on stops. You know this is the top inside the bottom. You know buyers are coming here in the daily. You're buying new lows just because. Your first indication of an uptrend. So maybe you have you're in buy mode. You take a strict approach. This is buy mode. Everything from here on up is only on the buy side. The trend's over. Sell. You're supposed to buy here. Here's where you get blown out. You're supposed to buy. Here's the structure buy. But the cloud says only sell, only sell, only sell. Here's where you get trapped, but here's where the top becomes the bottom of the daily. Very simple. Very easy to read. Very easy system. Weekly. Sell. Here's your sells. Here's your buy. You buy into the cloud. You sell into the cloud. You sell into the cloud. You sell into the cloud. Sell. How can you fuck this up? It's blue. You're in sell mode. Right? Sell. This is the last one where you get trapped. Pretty stupid, huh? Just got to have the balls to sell. Here, and this is a top, bottom. There's a pivot. There's a pivot. Pivot. Now you have to say, well, this is an uptrend. We're starting to show signs of bull power. And I just got in here just because, hey, I just got a good deal for the scalps, you know, weekly. He's got a monthly. It's an uptrend. This was your chance to get in wave 4, wave 2 pullback, blue. You're always a buyer. Top, bottom, perfect entry. Probably the trade of the century. If you were just born this century, or last week. I wasn't born yesterday. Well, I was, and this is the best trade of my life. Look at this sell on the monthly. Top, bottom comes up in that doji. Wow. But you can see it never made it there. I got the wicks on top of the chart. You just actually a shaped candle there. Believe it or not, that's like completely a shaved out candle. Because I know that this is the bar. It's almost a shaved candle climax into that. But guess what? That's the top bottom on the monthly. Yeah, hello. Up. I'm making market if anybody's keeping track of making market calls here. This is going up. Right? Euro's going up. This is going up. They're both going up. Not the same pip range, right? Does this look like a good setup? It's kind of easy. You know, that's what people say. Oh, really tough markets. Yeah. You know what? Market's going to consolidate, and then we're going to make a move. People are like, oh, I see. Yeah. Bye-bye Japan. Bye-bye dollar. Dollar to the, you know, euro to the dollar is going up, and dollar to the yen's going up. There's going to be, but we can't just do a blanket trade like that because we have to pay attention to the ATRs of each instrument. When each one's going through its phase. Here's the top, bottom in the cloud. Right, cloud trading works, but do you need to have, like, the reason why I make fun of it is, do you really need to have 80 fucking clouds? You can see top, bottom theory here. Yeah, everybody's buying here until they're not. Yikes. And here's the unique candle I'm talking about is right here, baby. When everything just, this is the doji. This is the, I was just watching a guy talk about the trend. He goes, well, it makes a lower low, and I'm gonna try to rip into him later, but he's like, when the market, like, he goes higher, 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 low. He goes, when it breaks this, are we in an uptrend? At this point, I go, no, you're in a downtrend. He goes, we're waiting for this thing to confirm it. I'm like, okay, that should be your entry, and you never talked about entering there, right? Of course you'd enter here. It's blue. It's in a downtrend. As soon as this breaks structure, it's in a downtrend, right? As soon as this makes a lower low and close by hard rules, it's in a downtrend. As soon as this takes out this and closes here, it's in an uptrend. These people just don't seem to get it. Their rule system is so even lagging their rule system. As soon as it takes out this low, it's in a downtrend. As soon as it takes out this low, it's continually in a downtrend. This did not close above here. It is not in an uptrend. But see, this close above here is too big. This is the monthly chart. So they're like, oh, it's uptrend. Well, nice call. You finally figured out it's an uptrend, dude. Did you get in down here? Well, no, this is why you're buying new lows. You're buying new lows. You're buying every monthly pullback into the cloud, right? This one, you get burned. You get burned on that last one. Trend's not your friend anymore. Cloud trading doesn't work, man. I did what you said. But look at this one. Amazing, right? Failed rally, subtle into the cloud, and the vacuum's about to fill. This vacuum's about to fill. Never forget, there's a vacuum in here. Here's the vacuum now, and there's still a vacuum here. We could just tumble. We're in sell mode. So this is where my prediction could be wrong. I didn't pay attention to the trend. Is this the beginning of a downtrend? It's blue. Blue on the monthly. Very strict rules. Blue on the monthly, blue on the weekly. Should I be short? Not blue on the daily. Who's actually in control is the 15-minute chart. In other words, who's going to be first to the gate? The 4-hour people. When it breaks this 4-hour apex of this triangle and resolves and starts to cut towards here, people are already in. And then the daily. The daily's probably the easiest. If you're a person with a day job, you would just take your signals off of this. Or take your analysis off the daily. How could it get any simpler than this? Maximum zoom in. Maximum zoom in on the daily. Here's one level of zoom out on the daily, 10 pip grid. So the 10 pips grid set like that, I compiled the indicators so everything should load up here. So I'm going to put this on the high tail thing.